Happy first day of the month of September. Glad that you could join us tonight for TV47 Weekend Edition. A very good evening to you and a very warm welcome once again. Tonight we have a lot in store for you. Our team of reporters have been up and about, working day and night to bring you and I up to speed with what is shaping your world. And later on in the broadcast, we'll be talking about bridging the digital divide and the steps that are being taken to ensure that every Kenyan youth has an opportunity to succeed despite the digital divide in the country. TV47 Weekend Edition begins now with the highlights. Tonight, a man hacks 4 people to death in Igembe before himself falling victim to an angry crowd of villagers in a rage-filled moment. Family and friends still reeling in shock in the aftermath of the horrific crash on the Nithi River Bridge that ended the lives of all aboard the ill-fated van. And Kenya's Harambee Stars begins its AFCON return mission in earnest after last appearing in 2019, with the ghost that haunted Kenya's botched 2023 appearance hopefully having been exorcised. Thank you once again for joining us tonight. Remember to follow this broadcast live on our social media platforms at TV47KE, that is on X, TV47 News on X rather, TV47KE on Facebook, and TV47 Kenya on YouTube. My name is Odida, and on the sign language interpretation desk is Rhoda Nyamai. Let's get started. Now, 12 people were killed in a gruesome accident involving a van and a pickup truck at the famous Nithi Bridge along the Meru-Nairobi highway. According to the police and eyewitnesses, the accident involved a Nairobi-bound hired van and a Toyota Hilux headed towards Chogoria. Chichi Josephine now tells us more about this.
12 people, among them 8 adult females, 2 adult males and 2 teenagers lost their lives following a road crash involving a van and a pickup truck at Nithi Bridge on the Chuka Meru Road in Tharaka Nithi County. According to the police, the incident, which occurred on Saturday night, resulted in the deaths of all passengers in the van after colliding head-on with the pickup.
Confirming that we have collected 12 bodies from this scene, which and others 2 injured. This is an accident that has occurred involving 2 motor vehicles. One was headed towards the Nairobi direction and another one to Meru direction.
Tharaka Nithi County Police Commander Zacchaeus Ngeno said preliminary investigations suggest that the accident was caused by lane encroachment by the van driver, as he was not conversant with the road and thus swerved off its lane to collide with the oncoming car headed to Meru.
The motor vehicle that was coming from the Meru direction is not a motor vehicle that normally or regularly uses this road. And we may, or I may assume that the driver did not take to the lane as was expected of him and had a head-on collision with the other vehicle that was coming from the Nairobi direction.
As after the gruesome accident, various leaders have come forward and urged the government to ensure a fresh repair of the bridge to curb the menace.
Those beautiful ladies who passed away last night wanatoka Meru County. This bridge is serving the entire region. Your Excellency, sir, let us keep the promise. Let us implement the designed new bridge of Nithi Bridge posterity.
Hiyo Tharaka Nithi inaendelea kuwa watu wetu, and it's really unfortunate. We lost 12 lives yesterday, people from Meru. So ikumbuke, najua zile shinda zimekuwa, Tharaka Nithi tufanyie nini? Tutengenezewe. Ama namna gani?
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua revealed that the government has finished redesigning the problematic bridge, awaiting the fresh construction.
I have called the PS, ile mumeona nimetoka nje, Engineer Mbogwa kutaka kujua hiyo ahadi rais wetu alipeana. Nimemwambia kumekuwa na ajali last night. 12 people are dead, others are injured. I'm here in Meru. Emotions are very high. People are asking, they want an answer. He has told me that the designs are almost complete. Nimemwambia siharakishwe haraka. So that we come and honor that promise to the people of Meru and save lives.
Chichi, Josephine, TV47.
Condolences to the family. In a shocking attack, 4 people, among them a woman from Kerio village in Igembe North Sub-County, Meru County, were today killed by a middle-aged man. According to Igembe North Sub-County Police Commander Mark Bitok, the 4 were attacked by said man who was armed with a panga while working in a farm. Now, Bitok confirmed that the 4 died as a result of deep cuts. According to Mr. Bitok, the members of the public eventually killed the said man who had carried out the killings. The Igembe North Sub-County Police commanders urged members of the public not to be taking the law into their own hands, but to report such incidents to the police for appropriate action. The 5 bodies were moved to Maua Hospital mortuary awaiting post-mortem.
Leo tulipatana na habari mbaya ambaye ni huzuni ya kifo ya watu 4 ambaye waliweza kuuawa na mtu mmoja huko Kilera, kijiji ya Kilera. Wakati tulipata hiyo habari tuliweza kutembea huko, tukaconfirm ya kwamba hao watu walikatwa wakiwa kwa makazi yao. Alafu wananchi wakaweza kukimbizana na mwenye alifanya hiyo vitendo na wakaweza kumuua. Habari ambaye ningepitisha kwa wananchi ni ya kwamba wasije wakachukua sheria mikononi mwao. Ikiwa jambo kama hilo imeripotiwa kwa serikali, ngoje uchunguzi ipatikane ama ifanywe ndio tujue nini.
If the announcement by the Teachers Union Kuppet Secretary General Akelo Misori is anything to go by, then the ongoing teacher strike is set to continue for the 2nd week. Unless the Teachers Service Commission signs a return to work formula with the union, Anastasia Mukabi reports on the crisis.
Tomorrow marks the beginning of the 2nd week of the teacher strike, and Kuppet Secretary General Akelo Misori affirms that the strike is still on unless the Teachers Service Commission agrees to sign a return to work formula. Misori spoke after the union's National Council meeting.
You remember the gist of our strike is not even the payment of money which has been reflected, because it is marginal increment. The outstanding issues which were not addressed. Once a dispute has been registered, for workers to go back, there need to be what we call a return to work. That is when, because now, like I've talked tough here, they may choose to send me a letter that I'm sacked. So we avoid that.
In addition, Misori explained that there are some teachers from rival union NAT who have since joined the strike.
Primary school teachers suffer most. We appreciate the primary school teachers who have joined the struggle.
However, NAT Secretary General Collins Oyu has defended his union from allegations NAT is working closely with TSC.
And we have a lot of experience in the leadership of teachers in matters trade union.
Yes. Exactly.
So when one thinks that maybe we are coerced to do anything, that is nothing at all. I think it is very nonsensical to think that we were lured into anything.
Elsewhere, religious leaders in Embu County have appealed to the TSC to embrace a dialogue with the Kuppet Union to end the ongoing teacher strike.
Wakati huu kuna changamoto ya walimu, migomo, Kuppet na wengine, serikali akiwa muliagana, mkasema kuna kitu mtafanya na injafanyika. Hiyo ulisema ni jukumu yako, useme ukweli.
Anastasia Mukabi, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Anastasia, for that report. Now, a total of 8 women have been killed in mysterious circumstances in Kakamega County in the past 2 months. This is according to a local group that raises awareness on crimes against women. The shocking numbers are causing tough engagements among stakeholders in the area in order to arrest the trend. Violet Auma reports.
Nani huleta dhuluma kwa hawa mama? Addressing the media in a stakeholders meeting that brought together residents of Ikolomani, the court users committee, religious leaders and bar and club owners, human rights defender Phyllis Lumidi observed that cases of killings among women have increased in the county in the recent past.
Ni mauaji ambayo yako very specific. Wamama wanauawa, wengine hawatambuliki wanatoka wapi, wengine hawana sehemu za siri, matiti, na hakuna mtu anaongea. Tunashindwa hawa watu wanaoua hawa mama wanawapata wapi na wanatoka wapi. Kwa sasa hatujawahi pata kisa chochote ambacho perpetrator ameshikwa.
Lumidi revealed that 8 cases of murder of women have been reported between the months of June and August, with the majority of these women unidentified.
Kwa sahi tuko na visa 8 ambazo tumezinakili za mauaji ya wanawake. Kuna wale wamepatikana kwa magunia. Kuna kisa kimoja cha Shinyalu ambacho ni mume alimua, but tunaambiwa huyo mwanaume alitoroka. Na tukiangalia constitution yetu 2010 article 28 inasema kuhusu kuheshimu kiutu za kibinadamu.
The human rights activist has asked women to come forward and speak boldly against injustices they experience in order to get justice.
Kuna penalty hapo watu.
MPs have been asked to enact and ensure implementation of laws that seek to protect both men and women from the current spate of murders.
Na kitu ya kushangaza tunashindwa wanatolewa wapi, cause hatuwezi hata identify identity yao. Legislators pia wamenyamaza.
According to the 2022 United Nations Women Organization data, Africa reported 20,000 cases of murder among women, most of these cases alleged to be love-related or connected to differences between relatives. Violet Auma, TV47.
Now, President William Ruto has continued to laud the broad-based government for apparently bringing peace and unity among Kenyans. Addressing a congregation during a Sunday service at St. Crispin ACK Bungoma, the president said that this is the only way to unite the nation and asked those who oppose the unity effort to join hands with the Kenya Kwanza government for the sake of the nation's development. Wanji Sostin with that report.
This Sunday, Bungoma County hosted President William Ruto, accompanied by Governor Ken Lusaka, Majority Leader in the National Assembly Kimani Ichung'wah, and various other leaders who all attended the Sunday service at St. Crispin ACK Bungoma Church. President Ruto continued to laud his collaboration with ODM leader Raila Odinga, citing an apparent drop in political temperature since the creation of the broad-based government.
It is almost a miracle that the people who were on extreme sides a few months ago, today we are speaking as though we are very long time brothers and sisters and friends. And that is the beauty of our country, that when circumstances demand, we close ranks as a people, we forge alliances as a people, we build bridges as Kenyans, and we work together for the greater good of our nation.
Our people in Western, tujipange pia. Lazima tujipange. Politics is about competition. I was there and I could not believe that was an answer that was all. Atandi is here now today. You cannot believe it, from Alego Usonga with the president.
Na watu wa Bungoma, watu wa Nyanza, watu wa Mlima Kenya, wale wote ni watu ambao wanataka sisi wote kama Wakenya tuishi kwa amani.
Ruto maintained his belief that this is the only way to end tribal politics, further assuring the nation that all Kenyans will get equal development regardless of their political views. The president also announced the restoration of the Kazi Mtaani program as one way to address the youth unemployment problem in the country.
Ile program ya vijana ya mtaani, munisaidie kupanga mambo ya kupanda miti na mambo ya solid waste management. itaanza hapa Bungoma vile itaanza katika sehemu zingine za Kenya.
President Ruto, however, stressed the importance of setting the best price for the maize crop, assuring farmers that his government has put in place the best strategies to produce enough food in the country.
All right, that story was produced by Wanji Sostin and voiced by Andrin Kilemi. Moving on, Azimio la Umoja coalition members led by Kalonzo Musyoka made a show of strength today in Mombasa County after weeks of speculation over the fate of the coalition following the apparent exit of Raila Odinga from local politics. Azimio stalwarts took the opportunity to criticize the Kenya Kwanza government over recent policies. Our reporter Boniface Kimanzi has more.
Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka set camp in Mombasa Sunday in a bid to drum up support for his 2027 presidential bid.
I think William is busy campaigning for 2027. Kwa hivyo ni wazi, hii safari na mbio hii, we are not going to allow him to run alone. Si ni kweli? Kwa hivyo yeye mwenyewe chochote ambacho anafanya, chochote ambacho anakusudia kufanya ni mpangilio tu wa 2027. Lakini hashtag wa Kenya sio wajinga.
Flanked by other Azimio leaders including DAP-K party leader Eugene Wamalwa and Jubilee Party Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni, Kalonzo has piled pressure on the government to withdraw the new funding model which was unveiled on the 3rd of May this year.
Kwa hiyo muundo mpya wa kuelimisha watoto wetu katika vyuo vikuu, sisi tulisema hiyo doesn't work.
According to President William Ruto, the framework promotes the provision and access to quality higher education while ensuring that all students are supported based on their financial needs, a move that Wamalwa and Kioni seem to disagree on.
Elimu tusipoyachunga basi watoto wetu wengi hawataweza kwenda shule. Mjua kwamba yale ambayo yalianzishwa na Mheshimiwa Kibaki wakiwa na Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka, free education ilikuwa isaidie watoto wote.
Hata kugharamia tu chakula mezani kwa familia imekuwa ni shida. Kwa wazazi kupeleka watoto chuo kikuu sasa ni shida kubwa sana. Sababu naambiwa sijui mtoto wako band gani. Nikiwa na Mheshimiwa Uhuru kwa ile serikali, tulikuwa tumesema watoto wote wawe sawa. Wanatoa 16,000 tu.
The controversial model has seen students seeking financial aid grouped into 5 bands depending on their level of income of a household and their financial needs. During a town hall meeting at City Hall in Nairobi on the 26th of August, President Ruto noted that 26,000 appeals have been made so far and will be addressed in the coming weeks.
All right, that story was produced by Boniface Kimanzi and voiced by Stanley Nyaringita. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has today called for unity between political leaders, especially from the Mount Kenya region, in order to achieve development. Speaking at the MCK Mikumbune Church in Imenti South area, the Deputy President has termed it a shame to find leaders from the mountain area promoting division in these tough political times. George Maringa reports.
After accompanying the president on a visit to the Nyanza region, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua set course for the Mount Kenya region on Sunday. Accompanied by other leaders, Rigathi attended a service at the Methodist Church in Mikumbune area, Imenti South, Meru County.
Actually, in matters gratitude, it is the other way around. It is President William Ruto who owes us gratitude. Atufanyie kazi, si ndio? Zile barabara zilianzishwa na Uhuru Kenyatta amalize. Mambo ya kahawa, majani chai ipate bei. Mambo ya Nithi Bridge tupange. Mambo ya kila kazi ambaye imebaki, rais na mimi tuwafanyie. He is the one who owes gratitude to this region.
Gachagua intimated that the Mount Kenya region will take a new political direction in the near future, and according to him, the new brand of politics will be that of unity.
We had a problem with Raila. So when Uhuru Kenyatta mtoto wetu alikuja akatuambia Raila ni mzuri tumchague, Tukakataa. President William Ruto akakuja akatembea akatuambia hii Raila ni mganga, ni mtu mbaya. Si alituambia? So sisi tukaamua tuachane na ile Uhuru anasema, tufuate ile President William Ruto anafanya nini? Anasema, na tulifanya hivyo. So when President changed his mind na akasema hii Raila ni mtu mzuri, Uhuru alikuwa amesema ni mtu mzuri, sasa mimi nikaanza kujiuliza nani mjinga hapa?
The DP taking the time to put on notice those he termed as enemy agents used to sabotage his aim to unify the mountain.
When you abuse an entire community and accuse it of lack of gratitude, when it's a community that has shown a lot of gratitude to President William Ruto by voting for him, it is not right. So nikataka kuomba vijana wetu, we'll continue mentoring them, we'll continue talking to them, but let's be measured when you go to talk out there, so that you don't talk ill of your community, because it is not good to talk ill of your community. We are good people, we are dependable people. Sisi ni watu ambaye tuko na heshima na ni watu ambaye pia tungetaka tuheshimike.
Gachagua revealed that he regrets going against retired President Uhuru Kenyatta after the election, an issue for which he has apologized. He added that the Mount Kenya region's future in politics is stable in spite of divisive statements made by some leaders lately.
Si Uhuru alikuwa amesema ni mtu mzuri? Si Uhuru ni kiongozi yetu? Sisi tukasema ile Uhuru alisema ya kwamba Raila ni mtu mzuri, hata sisi zote tunasema baba ako sawa, tuendelee na yeye.
Gachagua was accompanied by current and former elected leaders from the region.
Na ni vizuri tunapongeza baba Raila Amolo Odinga, lakini ana watoto wake watatu ambao hawana adabu. Na wale ni Gladys Wanga na mtu anaitwa Junet Mohamed. Hatukufurahia wakikejeli naibu wa rais kule kwao. Naibu rais amejiunga nao, but they were very sarcastic of him, wakimwambia hata hao wana milima.
Naona Meru inapotea kwa mapu ya Kenya. Tunampenda lakini unaona tumekuwa na viongozi wengi kwa serikali. Mheshimiwa Rinthuri, si ndio? Wengine tunaona wamerudishwa tena, akina Kuria. Si mlifukuzwa kwa serikali na Kuria, na wengine tunaona wameingia kwa mlango wa nyuma, sasa wao ni advisor kwa president. Si hata Rinthuri anaweza kuwa advisor.
Na hii serikali ni sisi tulitafuta. Kwa hivyo sisi si wajinga kuanza kuongea ama kuanza kutoka ama kusema nini. We fought for this government, so we are there. So hata bibi mwingine akikuchwa, kile tu taomba ni hiyo heshima tu ile Kirito amesemea, bibi ya mtoto, mama ya mtoto wa yule bibi wa kwanza afanye nini? Aheshimiwe. Kwani kuna makosa kusema hivyo?
Najua kwamba kumekuwa na lot of turbulence, a lot of storm in Meru County. We pray that there will be calm. Sababu mambo mazuri yakitoka Meru County yanaenea mpaka Tharaka Nithi.
George Maringa, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, George, for that report. Now, men have been challenged to establish more social connections among themselves as part of enhancing their health and mental wellness. In a seminar held at St. Mary SK Church, Kirigwini in Kiambu County, that brought together men drawn from the Kenya Anglican Men Association and the Catholic Men Association, the power of social support and shared experiences were identified as key contributing factors in mental well-being among men. Now, Jeremiah Muchoki, one of the facilitators, said it was high time that the society prioritize the well-being of men as they are a key pillar in the family unit, with their positive involvement contributing greatly to their children's intellectual, social and emotional development. According to Reverend Caroline Mwaura, men across the globe face similar challenges, and it is now becoming increasingly important to recognize the power of social connections in promoting men's health and general well-being.
I got curious about why are we meeting there? Who are going to be the facilitators? What are we likely to learn? How shall it be? And indeed, I was also thinking about what we call the St. Kizito Ngoda, whether there shall be that happy ending hour which we normally have, because this being an Anglican Church seminar, I was wondering how it will be. However, now it has ended up that we have learned about social issues, how to take care of ourselves as men, to share our issues, because men had been taught not to make complaints and not to actually air their views. But here we have been encouraged so much by Reverend Jeremiah, in the sense that now we feel that actually even to share some of those issues which make you feel lonely, it is better to do so.
Wanaume tumekuwa tukikimia sana tukiwa na jabu, hata kama ni ya ugonjwa tunakosa kuwasiliana na wale wengine. Tumeambiwa leo ni vizuri uwe na mtu ambaye unaweza kuelezea shida zako badala ya kukimia, kama ni ya ugonjwa ama ni matatizo mengine kama mwanaume, yale yanahusu wanaume, uwe unashirikisha mwenzako ama uwe na confident ambaye unaweza kuelezea mambo yako. Tuko na furaha sana kwa kushikana tukiwa pamoja, kwa sababu tunajua tunaomba Mungu mmoja, na ile kazi tumeshukua tukiwa pamoja Goda na washirika wa ACK St. Mary Kerio Valley, ni kazi ya Mungu.
The problems that Catholic men face are the same problems that Anglican men face. Even men in the community who don't have anywhere they fellowship, they face the same challenges. That's why we came with this idea that when they come together, they talk, they listen, they hear, they will be more stronger to face those challenges.
Now, more than 8,000 families in the Kerio Valley belt will benefit from 18 million Kenyan shillings water project from the Kerio Valley Development Authority, which has initiated various projects that will greatly help in changing the face and lives of the residents of the troubled Kerio Valley. Further, the residents have now managed to harvest more than 550 tons of sorghum and maize from Chepkum Kamsiwet irrigation scheme as an alternative source of income in an area prone to banditry attacks. The residents believe the project will go a long way in changing the lives of the people in the Kerio belt.
KVDA supports food security, especially along the larger Kerio Valley. We have about 6 irrigation schemes that we are currently implementing at the tune of about 200 million. As for this one specifically, we have targeted to use about additional 18 million to ensure that every farmer able to get water. And we are talking about almost 1,000 farmers in these particular schemes directly benefiting from the farming practices here. For a long time, it has been idle or fallow because of insecurity, but we want to sincerely thank the government, led by His Excellency the President, that this area now is calm. And as you can see, that farmers have gone back to their farms to produce food, not only to feed Elgeyo Marakwet, but all the neighboring counties, that is Baringo and West Pokot.
So as government, we are very thankful that the government is continuing to promote this region, and issues of starvation will come to an end. And we will continue promoting all the farmers and improving the acreage so that we improve the food security in this entire Kerio Valley.
This farm, since 2011, we faced the problems of insecurity, and thereafter, after division, we also had problems between clans, and we have now solved all those problems. I think the government, we shall also thank the government for the peace we are now enjoying here, because that was the issue of insecurity and made this farm to be standstill.
Ukipata hata sahi wamama wengi ni urbans. Wamama wadogo hawana wazee yako wao wameisha kwa sababu ya mama.
Residents of Cathedral slum in Embu have benefited from a free medical outreach program organized by IAM, a community-based organization that aims to address issues affecting teenage mothers and children from vulnerable backgrounds, and other organizations based in Embu town. According to health practitioners who treated patients from the slums, many children were diagnosed with upper tract infections associated with eating sugary items, among other causes. They also observed that that other children were diagnosed with diarrhea attributed to poor hygiene and washing hands and fruits before eating.
Kwanza wanapata watoto kwa sababu hawana kinga ile ya kuzuia kupata watoto, na kuna ile mahali ambapo wanatoa.
Sports News brought to you.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwa watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic kids and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
All right, welcome back to the broadcast. You're watching To The Point. Many thanks indeed for staying with us. And our conversation tonight is centered on bridging the digital divide. Just before we start this conversation, our guests are already in studio with us. We have just right next to me is Kennedy Kamande. Kennedy is an AI researcher, and right next to him is Michael Michi. I hope I'm not butchering your name, Michael. Michael is an innovator and the co-founder of NIA's Akili Zetu Foundation. You'll be telling us what you do over there as we continue, or maybe you could just start us off with that. What do you do at the NIA's Akili Zetu Foundation, Michael?
Thank you. NIA's Akili Zetu Foundation is a non-profit around artificial intelligence where we advocate for AI by Africa for Africa, and also we try to participate in preventing AI hegemony within Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Amazing. So in studio tonight, I have AI professionals, an AI researcher, and somebody also working very closely on matters AI right there. So our conversation tonight, once again, is centered on bridging the digital divide. And what exactly is this? Now, it is the gap between individuals who have access to modern information and communication technology, that is ICT, and those who do not. Now, current state of the digital divide in Kenya is as this, according to Statista on the internet penetration rate in Kenya. And according to the Statista, Kenya's internet penetration rate is around 43%. In urban areas, we have a higher access compared to rural regions. Now, this is the basis of our conversation tonight, gentlemen. We have higher internet penetration in the urban areas, and we are talking about Nairobi, the cities, for instance. But how about the areas in the mashinani? Why do we have such a low internet access to these people? How do we bridge this divide? What is your take on this as we start? Kennedy.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. Mm-hmm. Happy to be here. My name is Kennedy Wangari, an AI researcher and also data scientist at UNEP. And it's an exciting topic as we discuss, as we look at what are the challenges. As much as we're leveraging the digital space, the opportunities it's brought for Africa, the opportunities it's brought us to make money, to be able to make and influence decisions, communication, and all those benefits, we still have statistics that indicate that about 43% of Kenyans can be able to access internet. Mm-hmm. And also going by the ITU report, that's the UN's International Telecommunication Union, indicates that about 39% of Africa population has access to the internet. So it's sort of roughly the same percentage. And then we ask ourselves, there are a lot of initiatives that have been made either at national level over the years to look at how can we bridge this gap so that we can have more people being able to tap into the opportunities that are there within the digital space. But you realize that there are challenges that have been hindering us. One good example is that as much as in the country we're trying to improve digital literacy and to ensure that we have education through Ajira Digital, through ensuring we have research hubs, as you put it across, that most of these opportunities can be accessed through within Nairobi. If you go to those rural areas, you'll not find these ICT hubs. You'll not find these community centers. You'll not find these areas where youths can be able to come and access these training opportunities. Yes, the government is doing a good job, but you find that there's still more that can be done. If you go further, you'll find that, yes, our nation, that we pride ourselves on last mile connectivity, because for us to be able to access internet, it means we need to have power. And you find that quite surprising that most places, even right now within Kenya, do not have access to internet. So that means you cannot be able to power your electronic devices. More to that, you'll find that even the rate of, which is quite challenging, and it's making most of us as youths, even in those mashinani and even within the urban areas, not to access internet. It's because it's quite expensive to access mobile broadband internet. You look at the cost of purchasing a mobile phone, it's quite high. You look at the cost of even buying the data bundles, it's quite high. So you realize that there's still challenges around how do you access this infrastructure? How do you access these mobile phones? How do you ensure also the government that we have this infrastructure from the hubs, all getting to those marginalized areas? We would go in and on and list the various problems, and but we also making you find that the government and also at community level we are making initiatives. The youths, when an opportunity comes, they're there to learn, they're there to take up the opportunities. But we can do more, because look at an example of one of the nation's priding initiative that we have, ICT software factory in Molot. If you go there, will you find will you find resources that the people who are there can use? Will you even find internet? Will you even find power?
On very, very important points, and we have them here. We will be looking quite deeper into them later on, but I just want to get also some views from Michael, of course. Are there any locally transcribed innovations that could help bridge this gap between the digital divide in urban centers and rural centers, from your own view?
I think it's an infrastructure challenge. I think the first step is, one, get power there. Once you have power, then your last mile for internet is also quite a challenge, because most of what's been set up is obviously set up by private companies. It's a heavy investment for them to run fiber across all these regions. So they could look at alternatives, maybe borrow a page from Elon Musk's Starlink, look at satellite as an option for internet connectivity within these areas. But primarily, I think the main challenge just sits on infrastructure. There has to be capacity to put up this infrastructure, which means a lot of financial resources. And if it's private sector, they may just look at it from a point of, if there's no return on investment for this, it may not be a project that can be sold and actually kick off. But if it's government driven and it's something which government feels that every individual, every citizen of the country deserves to have access to this resource, then as a government project, I think maybe has a bit more legs, or maybe through private and public partnerships that can be done.
All right. Now, when we're talking about AI, for instance, do you think our youth or those in rural areas are very much well versed with the AI? And does it in any way have the potential of bridging this gap?
So I don't think AI will help bridge this gap. It's sort of AI currently in its current state. As a country, as a continent, we are still heavily consumers of the technology, and it does ride heavily on the internet. All the large public models are accessible through the internet. So already we first do need the internet infrastructure, but there is a lot of work being done within the ecosystem in the country, with companies trying to build local models that can run on devices so that you don't need access to the internet. If you have power, then you can access this resource. Some are trying to take it as far into even mobile devices, not just laptops. So that kind of work could help terms of getting more democratization of AI outside the urban areas, which would be a good thing, though it's still early stages. Yeah.
Are we still in our early stages of AI in Kenya? Kennedy?
I believe we're still in the early stages. Because if you look at from the adoption, the implementation, and also how we are working on the other enabling factors that ensure that we can be able to adopt and implement AI in a safe and inclusive and basically in a way that it doesn't bring a lot of risks and ethical issues. We're still quite at an early stage. If you look at policy, frameworks, regulation aspect, there's more that's with early stages, developing frameworks, strategies. If you look at on matters research and development, you're finding universities such as the University of Nairobi, they're bringing up AI hubs. If in terms of investing in education, new degrees and master's programs are coming up. If you look up at data investment in data infrastructure and cloud services that basically support the AI adoption, we're basically making those gradual steps in the right direction, I would say so.
All right, now when we are talking about AI, artificial intelligence, are we only referring, because when we mention this, a couple of people may think we're only talking about ChatGPT. We do have a variety, right? Maybe you can give us a breakdown, Mike.
Yeah, so maybe I'd start off, we had been in the AI space and not really believing in using AI.
You don't believe in using AI?
Not believing in using as in the term AI. So it's a very broad, I think what most people are used to seeing is generative artificial intelligence, which is what is, we can use examples of ChatGPT, we have Google's Gemini, Anthropic's Claude, and those are just mostly text-based language, they're just large language models. We have others that do video generation. OpenAI is working on their model called Sora. We have Stability AI, who also have their own model. And those are to create images and videos. We've seen AI models that have been created for sound, so creating music. So there are quite a bunch of models out there. So I'd say ChatGPT actually was what got everyone into the craze of it, because it had such a, one of the fastest apps in terms of growth, reaching 100 million users very fast. So that is when we think of artificial intelligence, we sort of tend to think in that direction. But there's quite a lot behind just artificial intelligence. We have conversations around deep learning, machine learning. We have a lot of math and statistics, calculus, algebra, a lot of work with data and software development. It's quite a huge field, even just looking at it from people who practice within AI governance, people who are trying to practice in AI ethics. It's a huge field that shouldn't just be looked at as one simple app, but I guess that's the kind of flagship app that now we measure AI by.
Right. Yeah. Perhaps we should have also more training on what AI really is. Do you agree?
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at the current state of the digital divide in terms of access to digital devices. Now, while smartphone ownership has been increasing, many young people, especially in rural areas, lack access to computers, tablets. We have also reliable internet connections. We don't have reliable internet connections in the rural areas. And this limits their ability to participate fully in the digital economy, education, and other online opportunities. This is according to GSMA report on mobile economy in sub-Saharan Africa. Something really needs to be done, because when we are saying there is a lack of accessibility to smartphones, tablets, or computers in the rural areas, then maybe this is the reason as to why there is quite a very broader digital divide in the rural areas as compared to, in the urban areas as compared to the rural areas. So what do you think really needs to be done? Maybe innovations to save this. Mike?
I think cheaper devices. It all boils down back to cost. if you have the money to spare, you probably have a tablet at home and you have a phone as well. Both can serve the same purpose. Then you've added on a computer because you have the access to the funds to do this. So now being able to get same quality devices that could be made cheaper, accessible to more people. We've seen initiatives for where you can buy a device and pay it over time slowly. I think Safaricom have such a model, and we've seen some...
The Lipa Pole Pole.
Yes, Lipa Pole Pole. We've seen other companies also come up with some payment methods with manufacturers where you get it and you pay it over time as you use. So that can help just increasing more penetration of these devices. But ideally, I think the devices need to start off by being built a lot cheaper. I think cost is a huge factor. Devices are getting better and better, but their cost is actually increasing. All the mobile phone manufacturers, all their new flagship phones, cost always goes up. But again, they argue obviously that more features and more improvements on the devices, then you have to pay more for that. So I think either get a manufacturer who can build a device that's suited for that environment. You don't need every feature on every device, especially if you're going to take up these devices for educational purposes. If they're going to be used for training, they're going to be used in schools, then there are certain features that could be removed from the devices to make them cheaper. Maybe get manufacturers to do that, make the devices cheaper. I think we tried the tablets and laptops things for the schools. That didn't work out. Obviously, you first have to put in the power and the supporting infrastructure before you buy millions of laptops and tablets for schools. But still, I guess it was a worthy effort. I think just poor execution. But I think the goal is just to get the devices cheaper. Yeah.
Just to add something on the same one.
All right, just a minute before you add it. I have a question for you, Ken. Now, how can we ensure that there is these digital devices are also accessible to those in the mashinani, so that they can also be able to access everything that we're doing? When you're talking about digital literacy, what needs to be done, Ken?
Great. When we talk of digital literacy and skills acquisition, that's an area that's quite passionate to me. Part of the work we're doing with deep learning for Africa to train the next 100,000 future data leaders. And when we talk of digital literacy, being able to impart this knowledge to our people in the marginalized areas means that, one, we need, as a government, to promote what we've been doing at deeplearning.ai and what we are now working currently with the Ministry of ICT and Ajira Digital is basically to promote public-private partnerships. And by that I mean they are educational tech companies and what we call edtech platforms that you can learn online, such as Coursera, Udacity, and the likes. Government and organizations can come together. 2020, ICT Authority partnered with Coursera. They were able to train 30,000 people in Kenya. We're doing a similar initiative this year to train more people on AI. So I believe, and we've had successes, and we've also seen even other countries being able to implement similar initiatives. And even in the country, we have the Google Digital for Africa partnering with the ministry. So if we can be able to create more synergy and more collaboration on public and private partnerships so that we can be able to train our people, so that they can be able to have access to this knowledge. It means that they'll be able to have access to the knowledge, and they'll be able to use these digital platforms to their own benefit. So that's one great way that I've seen in my own ways the people we've been able to train. I'm also a beneficiary of Coursera, having learned in my early stages through Coursera.
But is it really accessible in the rural areas?
For it to be more accessible is, one, if you can be able to promote more of these partnerships and collaborations between public and private organizations. These edtech platforms are more than willing to be able to, because it's part of their mission. Like if it's data camp, part of the vision is to increase data literacy within Africa. So if our interests merge, we can be able to train our people. And we're also seeing similar initiatives. We have World Bank, I think, Digital Development Partnership Program. How can our government and our CBOs now come together and explore how can we be part of this program. If you look at the African Union right now, they have the African Union Broadband Commission on SDGs. How can we also be able to partner with them so that we can be able to get this access to this high quality training, the expert people, they'll be able to come and train our people. So that's one great way of seeing that we can be able to leverage to support our people in those marginalized areas to be able to access this knowledge. And while at that, just to add, as my fellow presenter mentioned, that we have access to low-cost devices. And while that happens, we are currently seeing an interesting conversation that would even help more of our people access internet. Why am I saying so? Right now, there's the rise of satellite-based internet. And one of the key concerns around the country is because the major competitor, or that's against, is because the internet fees it's quite high as compared to Starlink and satellite-based. So I'm of the thought that if, as much as we want to ensure our people have access to these devices, they've been trained, can we also have frameworks and ways that we can now be able to access more of, because we've seen now it's a cheap alternative. Because again, you mentioned that one challenge that's inhibiting our people to access internet is that as much as I have a phone, it's quite expensive for me to buy a data bundle. So if there's that alternative option that's cheaper, how can the government and other actors come on board and be able to collaborate on the same? So that's what I think that probably we could do. And I believe there are more other interventions that we can look at. How do we ensure that these people who are not part of the 60+ statistics, they're able to gain knowledge, know how to utilize these devices, how to even safely use these digital platforms for their own benefit.
Right. Yeah. Michael, I'd just like to understand more on what you mentioned, cheap. We should have cheaper option. How cheap is cheap for you?
Again, so that's,
now, underline this, or just link this rather, with the rural, the marginalized communities. How cheap is cheap for them?
So I think that would depend on region to region. I think some areas closer, some of the rural areas closer to cities, cheap would be a lot, bit maybe expensive to those who are a lot farther away from urban areas. So I don't think there's an exact number we could have, because again, also you do also want variety within these devices. I think when we start saying that the devices obviously need to be cheap, we need to look at what's these households that we're sending these devices, what's their monthly income? Can they afford these devices? And that's why I think one good way is these payment platforms which allow you to pay off over time. So you sort of spread, you don't have a single upfront cost. And then I think that can be built on from there. It will be very difficult to stand up and say 2,000 shillings is the right amount, and there are people who would still not have access to that 2,000. They may want the devices for 500 shillings or 700 shillings. So because that's quite relative, we just need to find a way to ensure that there are enough options for these devices that should be affordable to every household. Yeah.
Now, I have a pressing concern, but I want you to hold on to this thought as we take this very short break.
Okay.
If we are making these devices accessible to the people in the marginalized communities, the rural areas, don't you think I'll be going to that particular place to get my phone from there, to buy my tablet from there? Think about that. Okay. We're taking a very short break. We're coming back after this break, of course.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m.
Hey there, friends! Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
All right, welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. You're watching To The Point, and our conversation tonight is bridging the digital divide. Our guests are gentlemen dealing with the AI space. And before we went on that very short break, Mike, you were making a very critical point that really caught my attention on how cheap is cheap in the rural areas. And my question to you before we went on that very short break: won't I, a person living in Nairobi, go to the rural area to get a phone or a tablet or a laptop because it has been made cheaper in those areas? What do you think?
I think it would be a waste. So my explanation around that is the devices that would go to these areas, these marginalized areas, are going to be specialized devices. The hardware in itself will be very different. You want devices that can withstand wear and tear, devices that can last upwards of 2 to 3 years. You're looking at devices that will meet certain requirements. They won't be 5G devices because there's no 5G there. You're looking at maybe 3G, 4G devices. And certain features on these devices which are nice to have would not be there essentially. You want them to have these devices for communication, access to internet, and learning and all these things. So certain things on these devices may not be necessary. You may not want to build a device with maybe a fingerprint sensor or the face ID. So that removing some of those features would make the devices cheaper. So whereas you would have your iPhone here in Nairobi and you pay 100,000 for it, you won't go to Turkana and find your iPhone for 700 shillings. You'll find a different device that's been built to cater to the needs of these people here and also to allow for the digital inclusion. Yeah.
All right, now let's take a look at how this affects the employment. And according to the International Labour Organization, limited digital skills reduce employment opportunities for youth in undeserved areas, and it also excavates existing socioeconomic inequalities. Kennedy, do you agree?
I do fully agree. In that these digital spaces, as earlier mentioned, they've given us an opportunity to, one, you can be able to further your career. We've talked of edtech platforms where you can improve your skills, you can learn online, and now we're in the era of online remote learning. So that means if I don't have I don't have the digital literacy skills, I'm not digitally savvy to understand how to leverage these platforms, how to safely use these platforms, it means opportunities for me to improve my career are minimal. Two, again, we're looking at these digital spaces have been places where people have used to promote themselves, to promote their careers. We're looking at platforms such as LinkedIn, Twitter, and any other platforms. So if I'm left out of these platforms, it means I don't have a wider opportunity to reach out to a wider audience, and it means I'm limited in terms of opportunities that I can have access to. We're also looking at these digital spaces have provided opportunities for people who have businesses that they can come online and they can be able to leverage the different platforms to promote their businesses, to get more customers, to be able to make more sales. So it means if I don't have access to these opportunities, I have a limited clientele and the people who just know either by word of mouth or what I do. So I'm limited. I cannot be able to use a digital space because I don't have the digital skills and I even don't know how maybe to use Facebook for marketing. Again, we're also looking at these digital spaces and the skills that I've gained to leverage these platforms. I can use them. They've really come in handy, and more so with the Jira Digital as income generating opportunities. I can be able now in the era of content creation and other emerging income generating opportunities that are really coming up. And I think it's in line with the tomorrow's bill that's being tabled in Senate. That's the Digital Economic Support Bill, all basically trying to look at how can we be able to support our people. So it means that if I don't have access to these online opportunities, digital platform and digital skills, I cannot even be able to come online, use my creativity and maybe create another added income generating opportunities. So we would go and on and showcase more of the opportunities and the benefits that are there if I have access to these skills and I know how to utilize these spaces safely and securely versus someone who is locked out of the digital space. They don't have access to the digital platforms. They don't have the knowledge. So would go and more. There are many opportunities. It means that also as a youth, right now we're in the era of where we're using digital platforms for digital activism and championing for accountability. So if I'm not online, I cannot be able to contribute to the discussions. So there's a lot that if I have this knowledge and I know how to use these platforms safely and securely, I can be able to tap in and benefit from a wide range of opportunities, and that's why there's need for us to bridge that gap and ensure everyone is connected online.
And you also mentioned something that takes me to our next point, and that is Ajira digital program, right? All right, now this is one of the government initiatives in trying to bridge this digital divide in the country. And the Ajira digital program, its objective is to equip young Kenyans with the skills needed to work online and access digital job opportunities. Key features include training and mentorship in digital skills, access to job opportunities in the online economy. I see online gig economy, okay. And collaboration with the private sector to create more digital work opportunities. Now, Kennedy, do you think that with this program, Ajira digital program, the government has been able to achieve its main objective when we're looking at the rural areas?
It's a good step in the right direction, but it's faced big challenges that have hampered the vision of the initiative from when it was initiated up to now. If you look at the objectives and the impact so far, it was a great project, but we've had challenges. One challenge has been, and I gave an example of the so-called ICT software factory, the first one in Kenya, in Mulot. One challenge that has had with that particular facility is that we have poor leadership. We have leaders who do not support these visions, or people who come on board and mismanage these initiatives. And if you follow the whole case of Mulot, the objective and how we ended up even having now just a Mabati thatched room with even no computers, it's because you realize that there were funding and resources that were set aside. But the people put on board to implement, so there are a lot of challenges that have hampered the successful implementation of these projects, but it's a great initiative. If you look at the areas that's been successful, you're able to see that a lot of youths have been able to gain skills on how they can use the digital platforms, they've been able to access jobs, but there's more work to be done, because if at all as a country we can use the ICT hub in Ruiru as a benchmark, and when you get there, you realize this is the vision that we had, but what has been implemented, there's a lot we can do to make it a reality. But it's a great project.
All right, Mike, do you agree, do you think rather that the government with the Ajira digital program, they've been able to achieve the objective, which is to equip young Kenyans with the skills needed to work online and access digital job opportunities?
I don't think they've met the objective, which obviously would take quite a lot of time to fulfill this objective. I think more of the same around issues that this platform still faces challenges where marginalized groups, people in the rural areas have been marginalized because they don't have access to this platform. They don't have access to internet, to power, to devices so that they can access this platform. So it's serving some people, it's not serving everyone. Obviously, you'd want to build it to serve as many people as possible. So obviously there's a lot of room for improvement to deal with issues of accessibility. So it always comes back to infrastructure for me. If basic education, there's a challenge getting basic education across the entire country. Schools that don't have proper structures, that are not also being maintained well. If that's a challenge, then even the digital side of it will fall short. If we're going to say maybe we're at a 6 out of 10, for example, when it comes to our existing education system, then the digital one would be a lot lower, because if there are kids in places where they do not have it, their schools have no power, or these kids have to leave school to go kilometers on end to fetch water. What's the point of bringing a laptop there? The kids are not in school half the time. I think you first get them to be in school in a good environment that encourages learning. Then after you build on those layers. Now you say, now that we've got structures that people can learn, we've put up the right infrastructure, what else can we do? Then the next step maybe is now access to these digital skills, because now it's something that can be done. But I find it a bit perplexing. It's sort of like buying a train and you haven't set up the rails yet. Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at Konza Technopolis, another government initiative. Its objective is aimed at creating a technology hub that will drive innovation, research, and digital economic growth in the country. Key features include development of high-speed broadband infrastructure, hosting research and development facilities, tech companies, and universities, as well as promoting innovation in ICT, biotechnology, and renewable energy. How about this one, Kamande?
It's a great initiative for someone, I personally, who's been following on the Technopolis bill and how it's progressing in Parliament. I'd really say that it's a good initiative from the government, looking at also the various initiatives it's taken. That is, I'm particularly interested and more so excited on how they're building the sandboxes. That's basically platforms that will enable startups and creative people to come on board. They can be able to experiment, do the incubation, being supported by government. So that's a particular, I'd say, a particular investment that I'm quite excited about when you talk of the Technopolis and all about it. And it's a great initiative, and let's hope that we'll have enough funding to breathe it to life. We'll have able leaders and both from human to resources to be able to lead the projects to ensure that the people can be able to benefit from startups, ensuring that we're able to support our innovation, our incubation and funding, and all the promises that have been made. I hope that we can use it as a platform and a model for Africa. So it's a good initiative, I would say so.
Mike, what are some of the untapped opportunities by this Konza Metropolis, right? If I'm not Konza Technopolis, that you think the government should tap into to just ensure digital inclusion?
So hopefully, this was some years back. I had the opportunity to visit and see what's going on at Konza. At that time, I'd say I had not been moved by the whole concept. But then that changed after getting to see how they're putting up the infrastructure and some of the things. One thing which I felt could be done different is, I know they're putting up a university, I think, in partnership with Japan, if I'm not wrong. And I think the university, at that time, it was mentioned that it's primarily for masters and postgraduate, which I felt would not attract enough people. Most people who are taking up their masters or their PhDs, I think have settled where they are. It's very difficult to attract them to move. I think learning centers attract, a lot of cities in the past were built around learning centers. So if they could have a learning center that can attract undergrads and other levels, people who, an 18-year-old will quickly move there. You're not going to move a family of 5 because the husband or the wife wants to do a master's. It's a lot more difficult. It's a bigger conversation. So I felt in terms of attracting people to Konza, they needed, yes, the tertiary institutions for learning that offer a lot more than just master's or PhD. Yes, they want it for purposes of research, but undergrad, people taking up undergrad would move a lot faster and a lot easier. They have less, I think they have less of a burden when it comes to uprooting their life from Mombasa, from Kilifi, from Kisumu to come to Konza. I think it will be a lot more difficult for someone who has a whole family. So I think that was a missed opportunity at the time. I don't know if it's changed. It could also be part of their strategy, and maybe their strategy works. It was just that I felt cities in the past, because history does tend to repeat itself. We've seen cities in the past always grow around centers of knowledge, of research, of that exchange. So the more people you have doing that, the more growth you would expect. So I don't think there should be such a high threshold to who gets into these spaces. Yeah.
Interesting, Mike. Now, as we wind up, of course, the show is almost coming to an end. But I want us to take a look at the significance of for sustainable development, and the digital access empowers youth, driving innovation, education, and job creation. This is according to the UN in regards to sustainable development goals. It also is essential for achieving Kenya's sustainable development goals. Do you agree?
Yeah.
All right. And now youth empowerment, closing this digital divide aligns with SDG 9 and SDG 10. It is central to this year's International Youth Day theme, which said from clicks to progress, youth digital pathways for sustainable development. Now, International Youth Day was last month. Do you think we have achieved this, from clicks to progress? Are we progressing in terms of bridging this digital divide in line with this theme? Ken?
I'd say as a country, the events that have preceded in the last few months have shown us as a nation that the digitally savvy population, that's majority the youth, they've really taken up the digital spaces is a very powerful tool. And we've seen even other countries now benchmarking. You're looking at Nigeria, you're looking at Ghana and other countries in South Africa, all drawing inspiration from Kenya, how they've been able to use digital activism to champion for accountability. And even right now, the government is still under pressure to still be able to be put on toes by people. And this one significance of ensure having people that are digitally savvy and they're able to access the internet and able to use it. They know how to use it safely and securely to be able to champion whatever it is that's important to them, whether it's creating jobs and such. So I would say that this has been a great showcase, not just to us, because we can talk of as our youths. If you look at the Global Digital Index Report 2024, it will tell us that in Kenya we've been able to adopt or maybe use TikTok for job creation and such benefits. But my particular case that really cements and makes me feel that as a nation, and the majority of us who are in the digital space are really using these spaces well, and more of us, even the older generations, are more excited to learn about how to use these spaces, because how this whole the protests and the changes that we've had in Kenya, I think for me it's set a good precedence, set a good benchmark for many countries. And talking from a point of, I was privileged to be in Parliament for the National Youth Bunge on the International Youth Day. And part of the deliberations or the interventions that we made and acknowledgements were that initially our leaders or the people have not perceived the digital space as a space that could either be taken serious to champion for political causes. Good example, some of our leaders, even during the finance bill, termed that they didn't really take us serious. But I'm looking at a case of that all the lessons that we've learned and are we taking from all that has happened is that there's more that we can do as youths. We have the energy, we have the potential, there's more we can utilize these spaces. But while all that happens, we've also been opened to a world that there are also challenges. And these challenges will either come from the government, such as internet shutdowns, censorship, and many other challenges that will come as we adopt this technology. So we are learning a lot of lessons that, yes, we can utilize these spaces to champion for and power good causes. There will be challenges, and what's best for us to figure out how to mitigate as we move. And it's an exciting time for us as youth, and let's use the spaces meaningfully.
Right. Let's also hear from Mike before we are cut short by time, of course. We are running out of time. But also this should serve as your parting shot, Mike. Would you agree that as a nation, we have lived up to this year's International Youth Day theme, which, of course, is in line with our conversation today, Bridging the Digital Divide. The theme is From Clicks to Progress, Youth Digital Pathways for Sustainable Development. Your take, Mike.
I think we are. I think I saw quite a lot of interesting initiatives beyond even just, especially, I think when we talk about the youth, we've had that in our head. It's, I guess, the Gen Z millennials, but I'm not sure what generation comes after them, but I saw quite a lot of interesting things being showcased during the week for the International Youth Day. And I did see kids who are being taught, kids who are quite young, who are being taught how to understand
what's going on.
I was impressed by one organization. Unfortunately, I can't remember the name. I don't want to guess, but they were teaching kids how to participate in public participation, because some of these bills which are being proposed actually affect children, and so they are finding ways to take that content, simplify it for kids, have kids do engagement. I remember seeing a video where kids were being asked, how can the internet be made safer? And you're seeing kids go through certain programs, and they are showcasing some of their ideas around this. You're seeing kids doing media programs, and I think it shows progress. And I think it's important. It's called from clicks to progress. It's not from clicks to an actual destination. It's more of a journey. And I think as a country, yes, we've embraced it. I think there are a lot of good initiatives out there being done by non-profits, being done by government, being done by private sector to push this. And I think it's something during that time, the few organizations I interacted with where I went to speak, I felt there is actually something substantial that's going on. Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for those insightful remarks. My take from this is that we still need much more infrastructure in the marginalized areas, the rural areas, in order to help bridge this digital divide in the country currently. Thank you so much once again for coming to the point. We are honored to have you here. And dearest viewer, thank you so much for watching. That brings us to the end of our discussion tonight and to the end of the show. My name is Odida. It has been an honor being with you tonight. Do have a good night and see you next time, inshallah.